Hey everybody, Brian Von Vier here, back at it again with more D&D stories. Today, we're going to be talking about DMs and players. What are the best pre-session recap summaries that you've ever had? I like to give my table a pithy recap of where we are and what we are doing in our scheduling reminders. I know some other tables and groups do the same. What are your best such pithy recap summaries? Some of my favorites, from different sessions of course, are: you are invading the ruins of a cultist-defiled temple at the behest of a very naive, cursed sorceress who wants revenge on the priest of a wish-granting god. In the aftermath of an encounter, lots of dead minions piled up in the shed, unconscious baddie leader chained up. Ooh, kinky. What do last week's revelations mean? And what, if anything, is to be done about it? Will the wizard and the bard's evil sister-in-law fall for the switcheroo? Will the benefactor you stole from look in her cupboard? What's in the ciphered document you stole? See you then. We will start where you last left off, a few minutes after the last fight, with the ancient scientist's note in hand and a naked pale guy visibly sitting on an operating table with his back to you through the observation window. You are in a ruined keep that has been repurposed and fairly well repaired. You met two new people, a dwarf and a humanoid cat-man thing. You just killed a crazy goblin dude and his lackeys. And a fidgety, muttering gnome introduced himself as a nursery rhyme character. Welcome back to Idiots on Ice. When we last left off, the wizard thought poking the ice troll without Misty Step prepared was a good idea. After taking it in the rear, the paladin and gang were able to kill the ice devil at the cost of one rabbit boy, who still miraculously survived due to the DM's horror and amusement. You learned that dumping oatmeal on a dragon causes extreme animosity. The paladin, against all odds and my sanity, seduced the ancient white dragon. And I hate you. Y'all learned that the warlock has been holding back the mental assault of Mind Flayer technology for nearly a month without aid. I am honestly shocked he hasn't died or become a slave. Y'all murdered a bunch of bandits and adopted one as a new party member, forcing me to come up with an entire backstory on the spot, and I hate/love y'all for it. You learned that your rabbit warlock can survive being eaten while surrounded by hostile electric tentacles, and not in the fun way. After a particularly chaotic session, the previous session, our DM began his recap as follows. Last session, everything started out pretty normal, and then everyone decided to do what can only be called the group's standard way of planning an encounter. Absolute sheer fucking lunacy. For context, we'd learned that Narfell was about to invade Damara, and Damara had enlisted our help to get information about where these tunnels the Narfell army was digging through the mountains on Damara's eastern border were going to break through. So, Damara could place their defenses accordingly. In order to do that, we'd gone behind enemy lines and we're going to attempt to infiltrate one of the enemy camps. So, to help us infiltrate, cough cough, our paladin drew 3 animals from his tan bag of tricks. He ended up with a giant weasel, an axebeak, and a baboon. He gave the baboon a potion of growth, then had it ride on the axebeak and chased the giant weasel through the camp, throwing bottles of alchemist's fire at the weasel, causing massive damage to the camp. Then, while everything was in disarray, including the party, because in the midst of the chaos, we all kind of forgot what we were actually supposed to be doing, the paladin remembered that all we needed was the information. He happened to already be dressed like a soldier of Narfell, because we'd stolen some of their armor, so he walked into the command tent and read the information and left, which he could have done from the start if he just remembered what we were there for. but he was so busy coming up with a distraction, he forgot to think about the fact that they wouldn't be questioning one of their own soldiers showing up in the command tent. Second session with a new group I'm introducing to TTRPGing. Okay, so a thing we used to do in my family is recapping the previous session at the start of each one. What do you guys remember? Well, I was the 8th in line of the Elven Kingdom and had gone away to earn riches and fame, so I would have better standing in a political marriage. I am your bodyguard, and the ranger, who's our guide, was desperately trying to keep you from revealing you are a pretty princess to everyone we meet, so he can keep us both alive and get his payment. I'm more worried about the barbarian trying to bang my wolf. You know she wants it. She's a fucking wolf, you zoophile. Do you remember what you were doing? Oh, that's right. That dwarf, what's his name, sent us to, that fort. Tomb? Yeah, that's right. The thing is, we were sent to fetch some old stuff. Right, and we had to get there before the mouse men. Rat men. Whatever. Let's go kill some furries. Hell yeah! I was there too, you know. It sounds like a regular old jamboree of kids trying to go to kindergarten for the first time. Where's your note cards, kiddos? So, I like to get the party to tell me what happened last session to jog their memory. And then, I'll include details they missed. The highlight has to be, so what did you do last session? We pissed off Sharon the Eldritch monster who works in the HR department and got thrown off the top of a skyscraper. My regular time at the BMV. Exciting. I'm a player, and in all my campaigns, I try to turn it into a story starting last time on campaign name and a movie narrator voice. The group loves it. Oh, you want a movie narrator voice? I can do that. Last time on We're All Dead in a Pit. I think my favorite has to be when I missed one session and asked what they did when I was gone. If I remember correctly, you guys made it to the kingdom after brutally trapping an old man in his closet and stealing all of his food, leaving him helpless. They achieved nothing except that they weren't hungry on the walk that day. This coming week, I need to figure out how to go about recapping the fact that they rolled a little over 100 times total. 37 of those were nat 1s, and the only nat 20 that whole session went to the attack roll our monk made to fist the big bad evil guy. And that's how the BBG was defeated. I'll just say that nat 20 was cruel to me. I had to describe that so they could visualize it, and this was only my third ever time hosting D&D. Help. I didn't account for the dice gods wanting to torture me. I don't know if it's exactly what you wanted, but this is how I write our group's recaps that I make the DM read. I added some context to it just to get the full effect. Previously on Friends Per Chance. After some excessive deliberation, the party packed their loot, plus one captive, and began heading back toward the entertainer's troop. I think one captive got me. Unfortunately for our heroes, the show must go wrong. And go wrong it did, beginning with the failing of the DARE program. When the party met the high ledge of the cave, Griffin Guy informs the party of how the bandits had proceeded. The party deliberates, and it is decided that Matar would stand atop the ledge, whistle for the lion's attention, and hopefully keep it calm with catnip, helpfully provided by the sparkly cat Intermass, of course. I can't. The fleece-maned lion jumped up the ledge and immediately got so high that a "this is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs" moment ensued, and everything went to shit. Matar narrowly avoided becoming a chew toy for the big cat, sacrificing his cloak in the process. And Teddy rushed to help, the lion making off with both the nip and the magic leash. They gave chase and found the lion attacking two very big spiders, the latter losing horribly. They managed to retrieve the cloak, or rather, what's left of it, and after an anxiety-ridden game of trial and error, they managed to corral the lion back into its cage, after which they tried to recover the years of life they'd just lost. A portal opened from above, and Jagshad, Matar's lich boyfriend, stepped through, arriving just as all the excitement had ended. Matar went up and hugged him immediately, while Griffin Guy, our captive, has a mental breakdown trying to process how the he got into this mess. Jagshad morphs into a half-elf version of his former self, then turns the lion into a small rabbit and carries it the rest of the way. The cave largely uneventful after that point. Matar named him Bunny. They part ways with promises of future communication. Jagshad having put the lion back in its cage and then dispelling its polymorph. Finally, the party makes it to the huge city and, spurred on by Antermus, rides the griffins high in the sky, a gorgeous city view sprawled out before them. Somehow, the party managed to find an inn willing to take them and their beasts, and after a hearty dinner, they all took a long rest. Most campaigns I've ever been in have been pretty serious, and I had been feeling particularly goofy as my Emerald Dragonborn bard, who has a tendency to leave paranoia-inducing messages in people's heads. Usually only people who were seriously nasty in combat or genuinely horrible people. Anyway, we had captured this one bandit who had almost KO'd my Dragonborn. Not happy with him. She sat a couple of feet away from him, locked her eyes onto him, and filled his mind with non-stop, ominous threats, gaslighting, and overwhelming echoes. Stuff like, "She's going to eat you. You should run away. There's no escape." And a lot more. Being a bard, charisma is my main stat, so when I rolled a natural 20 plus 5, he ended up offing himself by repeatedly slamming his head into a rock. In the recap, it was shortened to Cassio forced a psychotic breakdown onto a bandit because, why again? I didn't like his vibe. The vibes were off. Clearly failed the vibe check. Yeah, because he failed the vibe check. Yeah. So last session, we were missing a few people, so we had a side story with the sorcerer and the wizard. Instead of the clearly laid out investigation where you find where the vampires are hiding, so you could have the church take care of them, of course, you found the artifact that the vampires were looking for, planted it on the bandits that inconvenienced you in the beginning of the session, told the vampires where the bandits were hiding, and cleared out the bandit camp after the vampires left. Ah, you forgot that we burned down the inn because they were working with the bandits. So when we last left off, you all had attempted to escape the orcs and went into a wild magic biohazard zone. That sounds so fun! As they cornered you into the area, everyone, including the non-casters, had to roll on the wild magic table. An orc became a wind elemental. Then the wizard cast Fireball, which instead polymorphed the tornado into a small dog. Then said wizard was transported to the plane of law for a whole minute, evading Mordons the whole time. The monk cast blindness on himself and the rogue, and the ranger simply ran around unaffected. As you fled this zone and made it into the next area, there was an explosion, followed by a bark and a new tornado forming in the background. You all managed to avoid said NATO, then came upon a town where there was a single dwarven guard who wielded his beard like a flail, who greeted you and fed you fine dwarven cuisine. Then said dwarf vanished in the night. All caught up? Any questions? Yeah, I do. What happened to the dwarf? So, last time some bridges were definitely burnt, and the party got semi-forced into attempted therapy by a goddess. Needless to say, that didn't work. And now the wizard doesn't trust the ranger and has deemed the cleric a simp. Why aren't you simping over your goddess cleric? So her judgment isn't to be considered. Hopefully this session will solve the issues you have and everything will be fine. Spoiler alert! It didn't! It just made it worse! Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course, leave a comment down below telling us about a pre-session recap that you really liked, or one that really tickled you, or possibly one that made you very emotional. We welcome all kinds here. And that said, obviously, I want everyone to know that y'all matter, that we love you, and that we'll see you next time. Just be safe out there because the world is a chaotic place, and it'll get better. Tune in next time. We'll see you later. Bye for now.